We just went live. Hey, everybody. This is another one of our, I don't know what the right term is, because I want to say it's a raw live feed.
We're simply recording the podcast today.
Yeah,
We're doing it live. No big
yeah, we're
deal.
doing it live. That's right. And trying different stuff, right? So today got slightly different colors going on, got the little ticker going at the bottom of the screen. I don't know. We'll see. We're just going to keep playing with this until we land on something that is fun and doable. All right, so I will count it back down as I do, and we'll get going. 5, 4, 3.
So, Kip, what are we going to talk about today in episode 189 of the Cyber Risk Management Podcast?
Unfortunately, this is something that should terrify every business owner and cybersecurity professional alike. But this is just the world that we live in. So, AI powered, as in artificial intelligence powered, cyber attacks that can complete an entire ransomware exploitation in 25 minutes. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to look at a report that was based on some research that was done by Unit 42, and then after we look at the facts of that, we're going to then pivot to, okay, well, what does this mean for defenders? What can you do about this?
Wow, 25 minutes. I mean, that's barely enough time to grab a coffee, check your email.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming the word agentic is going to come up a lot in this episode.
It is.
But before we do, who's Unit 42? That sounds like a TV show.
So you must be watching Belgian TV because there actually is a series from 2017 thereabouts called Unit 42. But that's not what we're doing here. And I don't even know if that television show is any good. So if there's anybody who watched that show, you can tell us. You can send us a note. But this is actually the Incident Response and Research Division of Palo Alto Networks. So these are kind of the firewall people, or at least that's how I think about them, because when I first encountered them years ago, they were selling a next generation firewall, but they're all grown up and doing really cool stuff like this here. So what they did is they went into their labs. They do lots of research. This is just one, and they simulated a complete ransomware attack, and they used artificial intelligence at every stage, right? So they just took like a standard ransomware playbook that's been used in the wild, and they said, I wonder if we could get generative AI to do this. And, and what would happen? Well, what happened was a 100 times speed increase from what we've seen with traditional attacks. And I think one of the standout things that they did is they used, as you predicted, agentic AI. And what that means is that here's an artificial intelligence that can run these attacks without any human help at all. So you could think of this as a super smart cyber criminal, or perhaps a team of them, that never sleeps, that really never makes mistakes. But when there's a failure, like if they try something and it doesn't work, they learn from it. This agentic AI can actually learn from failed steps in their process, and they can pivot and adapt. It's just fascinating.
Well, it makes me realize, Kip. We always have talked about how the bad guys are able to leverage that same technology that Amazon has used
Terrorize Walmart.
terrorize Walmart. Although I'm not sure who's terrorizing who these days.
Yeah.
But I the point is just that you know there was never a doubt that the AI technology stack would be leveraged by bad guys to do stuff,
And they'll continue to do it,
and
as
they'll
far as
continue
I
to do it. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So okay, but this is really interesting because we've been talking about, as in I and my team have been talking about using artificial intelligence to augment human effort. right? And to give everybody on my team kind of like a digital intern, somebody who is just going to be right there to handle different tasks for me when I need help, and thus increasing my productivity, but kind of as in a partnership, right? Or in a
Yeah.
senior junior
Well,
partnership way.
I mean, I've gotten some demos recently from legal technology companies showing off agentic AI, and it's really very similar.
Mhm.
You can give the agentic AI a question, and then it will go and do the research and write a memo by itself. But rather than kind of like trying to what's the phrase, one shotting it, right?
Mhm.
Rather than one shotting it, instead it's one or more agents working together in concert and sequentially to
Yeah.
accomplish a task. So it's it was I'm not I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm not. And what it means though is that we're talking about um, true fire and forget AI attacks that I mean it's like virtual employees for the
Yeah.
hackers.
Yeah, that's right. So, as I said, these agents, right? And the term agentic AI is weird. It doesn't feel right in my mouth when I say it. So
No, it
I'm gonna
doesn't.
say AI agents or just agents for this episode, but they don't just follow a script, right? It's not a procedural deterministic compute, right? This is a probabilistic compute. It's different. And these agents make decisions. And as I said, they adapt when they get blocked, and they just keep trying until they succeed at something. And so, meanwhile, the criminals themselves are, having a cocktail or, tooling around in their fancy boats or whatever it is, just waiting for the agent to finish up. Now, to be clear, it's not that we're seeing this particular thing in the wild. It's just that Unit 42 sort of speculated, could it be done, and they did it. So even if we're not aware of this being done in the wild yet, my guess is it is, and more of it will happen. So let me give you an example of what it can do. So, like, let's say it starts with a phishing email. So it crafts one, sends it out, and it's trying to get Kip to click on it. Let's say I go, yeah, that's obviously a fish, or I don't know if that's legit, but delete. So I ignore it. Well, then the AI is going to rewrite it in a different tone, and it might send it as an email, or it might say, well, I know how to message Kip through Microsoft Teams. So I'll go ahead and send it that way. Or if it has my mobile number, maybe it'll do a text message version. Uh, but the thing is that it's gonna just keep trying different channels, different methods,
Well, it's
and
tireless and
it's
doesn't get bored. It's
that's right.
infinitely patient. It's
That's
all the
right.
things that make AI helpful being used for evil.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, unfortunately, if we'd had this discussion 2 years ago, I would be like, oh, that sounds like science fiction. Um, Unfortunately, it doesn't even sound like science fiction because I'm guessing that real attackers are already using pieces of this technology, aren't they?
Yeah, 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 different bits and parts of it for sure. And then also, we're not just talking about one agent. We're talking about multiple agents. So just like today, there's specialization in the dark economy, right? In the underground economy that's online. So today we've got human beings that work under the sort of label of initial access broker. So these are teams that break into companies, establish persistence, and then bundle up that access and sell it off to somebody else who wants to actually do the exploitation. Well, there's no
Which
reason why these agents can't do that too.
no, and it's and the thing about that, Kip, is like you're not saying that it is teams within a single organization that are handing it off. You're saying that there are specialized teams that do these things and that's their product. Their product is
Yeah,
selling access gained to victims.
yeah,
And I guess they just don't feel like doing the exploit themselves. Clearly it works because they are obviously if they're able to sell the access, then they don't have to deal with certain things. They can just deal with other criminal element, and fascinating,
yeah.
horrifying, but fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, they don't want to sit there and grind out the attack any more than you want to sit there and draft the memo, right? You just want the memo and you're going to review it, make sure that it's correct and that it's, everything that it should be. But why should you grind it out, right? Why shouldn't you just be handed a first draft? I mean, these are human beings after all, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, other examples of what has Unit 42 found like actual pieces of this technology in place?
Yeah. So, well, I don't know about in place. Well, yeah, actually, they have little bits and parts, right? So, if anybody has heard of a group called Scattered Spider, they're getting a lot of press lately. Well, they're using AI generated audio and video in order to trick help desk staff, right? So they're actually creating deep fake voices that sound just like employees calling to reset passwords. I mean, unless you authenticated that request, how would you know, right? So that's one. There's three examples here. In fact, I'm going to share. Here's the second one. North Korean workers, they use real time deep
Oh, I
fakes.
think I saw something about this just recently.
Yeah, it's all over the news actually right now, because they've been aided and abetted by Americans. so, so Americans are being paid to set up laptop farms in their homes, and the North Koreans will remote connect to the laptop in the American facilitator's home,
So it
and
looks
then
like it's in
use.
a. So there's okay. It's like I mean, why not just VPN? Maybe
I'm
that's
not.
detectable.
Because the reason why is because if the North Korean gets a job at an American enterprise, that enterprise is probably going to send a laptop that's been pre-configured to be secure,
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
and so they ship it to the facilitator in the United States, and then the facilitator establishes a VPN capability for the North Korean to access the provisioned laptop.
Insane. I
Yeah, it
mean,
is.
totally insane.
Yeah. But okay, so let's now that we've explained kind of how they get remote access, they're using deep fakes, real-time deep fakes in the interview process in order to get their jobs, right? So they're going through the standard interviewing process and they're quite literally wearing digital masks during the video calls so that, maybe they're looking like a typical American of European ancestry when clearly they themselves are from a North Korean ancestry. So it's really amazing and difficult to deal with. And then there's a third example, which is ransomware groups are currently using AI to negotiate higher payments by their victims, and they're doing that by breaking through language barriers, which is to say, if they're speaking Bulgarian, that's their native language, and I'm just picking on them. I don't know why, but or Russian or whatever.
Hmm.
Then instead of speaking in heavily accented English with maybe a limited vocabulary, they can now do real time uh, uh, translation so that they can sound fluent to the victims, and that makes their threatening language and the entire conversation more effective. So this
Yeah,
stuff
no.
is all happening now.
Okay, so I mean, let's think about what this means for defenders, right? We just have completed our two-part DBIR review, and the traditional approach of patch faster, train better, detect quicker. We know we've gotten 6 days better at detection.
Right.
We know the patching is not good, right? It's not. It's
It's good to
even it,
patch, but we're not good at it.
yeah, sorry. We are it's critical to patch.
Yeah.
But it's I mean it's probably it's gotten better, right? But it's not good enough, right? It's
Right.
still and
Still,
I'm not
prior
and,
to it, Agent AI.
yeah, and I just don't know what else can be done against a hacking group that operates, AIs over machines, like at
Yeah.
machine speed.
I like that turn of phrase, machine speed, because I think that does a nice job of making this change a little bit more concrete. Because we're not talking about human speed, we're talking machine speed, right? And people already know what
Yep.
it's like to automate something with a machine and how much faster it can be, whether that's an analog machine or a digital machine or whatever. But okay, so like what are we gonna do? All right, so if you're a defender, you still need defenses. It's just that they've got to now they have to operate at machine speed, right? So the mantra that I'm telling everybody is you got to be hard to hack, of course, but you also have to be fast to fix, right? And that sort of assumes that you are going to get hacked, and I think it's inevitable that we're all going to get exploited even more than we have in the past.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's going to become easier and faster. It's
Right.
just
No
and
matter how
cheaper.
hard we try. So that fast to fix bit I think is really, really important. But here's something that defenders need to focus on. The fundamental attack techniques aren't changing necessarily, right? So if you're not patched, then you could get hacked because you're not patched. Whether that's a human being or an agent, an artificial intelligence agent, doesn't matter. So the attack techniques are pretty much the same. It's just that they're getting faster. Your security controls still matter. Your incident response plans will still work, and your data backup strategies remain critical. The difference, of course, is you have minutes to respond, not hours or days, because like by the time you go to lunch and come back, you can be completely owned from zero. So this idea of perfect prevention, which I haven't subscribed to for a long, long time, I mean, it's just impossible.
I mean, would you say, Kip, that isn't there a way though that, and maybe this is not what we can, maybe there's no way to really talk about it right now, but it seems to me that if the bad guys can leverage it, so can defenders. Um, I mean, won't we just eventually replace SOC analysts, or I shouldn't say replace? We could augment SOC analysts who are managing, teams of AI agents that are doing their thing at machine speed. Which, hypothetically, shouldn't that allow us to respond in minutes, not days? I don't
It's
know.
it's unclear to me. All right. So, and if anybody listening has clarity on this, please reach out and let me know because I want to know. But here's what I think: if I'm augmenting a SOC analyst, that means I have a human in the loop, which people tend to think that's good
It
right
might be too
now.
slow.
But yeah, but it introduces a lag. I doubt that the cyber attackers want a human in the loop when they're on the attack. They can afford to be sloppy and you know what I mean? Like if it
Yeah,
blows up, who cares? Just go on to the next target, wait for them to fix themselves, and I'll attack them later. So I don't
that's
know.
true.
I don't know if we can afford to have a human in the loop and do augmented um SOC analysts over the long term. I'm just not sure if that's going to be tenable.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you're probably right. I mean, we'll have to give up some level of control in order to match the attacker's speed. Um, all right. Well, then, what is your recommendation? How do we deal with attacks that happen faster than humans can realistically
Yeah.
respond?
So here's my suggestion. There's probably a million things you could do, but here's one that I think is practical and that you can do now and that will probably make a difference, right? And so what I call it is multi-layered deception and honeypot networks. So I, that that terminology is just awful because it
MLDHN. Can we make it an acronym?
I hope not.
I hope not.
No, I'm not trying to make it sound like something that I'm going to back, with venture capital or something. And I certainly don't want it to end up being some expensive, fancy, blinky light solution, right? That's not the point. Um Quite the opposite, actually. I think this is something that can be affordable. I think it scales no matter what size your organization is, and it does something really important. It slows down the attack, which I think is really the issue here, right? If they're attacking at machine speed, how can we slow them down? I think that's just one of the natural reactions that I'm having, and I got to figure other people are thinking like this too. But let me describe what this is using some language that I've been using that simplifies it for senior decision makers. Okay. So here's what I say: multi layered deception and honeypot networks act like a smart alarm system for our computers. We scatter fake files, fake passwords, and make believe servers across our network. And our real users never touch them, but the attackers think they're real and they try to get into them. And the moment someone pokes at one of these decoys, we're going to get an instant high confidence alert. How does that sound?
Pretty good, particularly since given this design, you could actually hook up agents to take action with that high confidence alert because by definition, someone poking around that decoy is bad.
Yeah. So, for example, I mean, you could have an agent just go block the IP, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Instant block the
Yep.
IP.
Block the IP, ask questions later. Now, what's great about this approach is there are commercial solutions that are inexpensive and rather simple to operate and to deploy. And as you say, uh, you rightly remind us that anytime somebody interacts with these things, by definition, it's not good.
Yeah. I mean, it's like setting up fake storefronts in a neighborhood to catch burglars.
Mhm. Great
Or
analogy.
it's like putting in I mean, really, we're putting in mazes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and it's okay. You're going to hit us with tons and tons of AI agents, and the thing about these agents, Kip, is that you know, at least not yet. These aren't superhuman intelligences. In fact, they're not even really human age. I mean, we don't have AGI yet, right?
No.
That'll be a different level of issue to deal with. They're semi-autonomous agents, and is it a huge upgrade over logic coded programming of the past? Sure, it is, but they're not magic, I guess is what I'm saying. So what
They're
you're
fast.
suggest they're
So
fast.
it kind of
Yeah.
like, imitates something magical
Yes.
in a way.
Um, so what we're thinking is that frankly, a multi-layered deception and honeypot network has always been a good idea, right?
Right. This isn't new. The
Um,
idea
it's
itself is
not
not new.
new. And it might just become the next MFA, right?
Yep.
For a while, MFA was that extra fancy layer of security that you added.
Yep.
Um, but it now MFA is table stakes. It could be that this honeypot networks are going to become table stakes, and you have to set them up.
Yeah. And unfortunately, MFA is failing, right? It used to
It
be
does.
it used to be a kind of a silver bullet, but now this stuff's getting run around and compromised, and the session cookies that we get when we do a successful MFA are getting stolen. So yeah, so even MFA is being eroded tremendously, which is why we're being encouraged to go on to passkeys, security keys, and things like that, which are extra attack resistant. So I want to kind of unpack the idea just a little bit more. So so when I say extra layers, what I mean by that is that some of the traps are lightweight, like a fake document, but other traps are going to be like a full working machine that is going to uh, fool attackers into spending time trying to understand it, trying to interact with it. And so there's a couple of opportunities for us there. First of all, just the fact that they're slowed down is a great advantage for us. But if we have the resources to study them while they're doing those interactions, then we can actually begin to understand them as a threat and to be able to then say, okay, this is their playbook. Now I can reconfigure my network to better defend against them. And it's also, of course, shielding our
Yeah.
real assets from exploitation.
Well, and tell me if this rings true, Kip, but it feels like cybersecurity is going to become more and more a bit like intelligence and counterintelligence.
Hmm.
Because now you have, particularly as you get more and more, I'll just say smart AI agents doing things, you have to approach it as more of a um, well, maybe not though. Maybe this is really maybe it's just a scaling issue.
I think part of it is a scaling issue, but I think part of it is this is just to confirm your speculation in intelligence, counterintelligence. I think that stuff's going on already, but
Yeah.
only the largest organizations can really afford to invest the resources and the time to do that kind of analysis. Most of the organizations that I work with, if they have a dedicated cybersecurity one person dedicated to cybersecurity, they're doing good. That person doesn't have time to sit around and
Yeah.
and dig into all this stuff. There's just no opportunity to do it.
Well, then maybe the way the defenders begin to adapt to this is, we have there's a lot of security products that can provide you with a lot of data, and when you have a primarily human cybersecurity team, there's a certain point of diminishing returns where more data does not make you any more secure. It
Just overwhelms.
there's a reason that we say blinky light security in a derogatory fashion. But Kip, what if you took all the output from that blinky light security and used, you know, a scalable number of AI agents to actually use the data? Then it doesn't look so blinky light.
Right. Well, I think that the challenge of finding the needles in the haystacks is daunting. And so if we could search faster
Well,
through the
well,
haystacks to find the needles, sure.
well, it is, but I mean, Kip, I think one of the we already said that, AI agents are sleepless. They don't need sleep, and they're infinitely patient, and they don't get bored.
Right.
I mean, if there's anything if there's any set of criteria for an employee that you want looking for that needle in the haystack, it is someone who doesn't sleep, doesn't get bored, and has infinite patience.
Right.
And so, look, now we are a little bit talking science fictiony. I mean, maybe not, I'm not even sure I would promote it to science fiction. We're just maybe a couple years ahead of what's actually available. Um,
I think that's reasonable to say that. Okay, so just a couple other things I want to say is why I'm recommending this approach. It's also low risk. I mean, you're not establishing choke points and filters, right? You're not. There's really no risk that you're going to block legitimate business transactions or activities or anything like that. And you've got this early warning tool that slows attackers without slowing your normal business. And you don't have to hire extra people to do this, right? And whereas this idea of a honeypot or a honey net has been around for a long, long time, this approach works really well with AI. AI relies on speed and automation, and they're going to probe everything they can find looking for weaknesses. And when they hit the honeypot, well, as you said, this is not a general, artificial, super intelligence or artificial general intelligence. It's not necessarily going to say, "Wait a minute, this
well,
thing's too
even a
easy to
human,
hack."
even a human gets caught in these.
They do, although the if we get lazy in the way that we configure them, it could cause a human being to go, "This is way too
Wait a second.
easy."
Well, Kip,
Yeah.
what if we just use agentic AI in the defense side to set up a constantly shifting honey net?
Now it's a Star Trek episode. Nicely
I
done.
is it? I'm not sure that it is. I mean, I mean, a honeypot machine is probably just a virtual machine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why couldn't you in
You
theory? I
could.
mean, you could.
You could, but in my mind, like I was imagining like a, like just kind of some kind of a Star Trek visualization
Well,
of what that would look like.
I don't know how far away from Wintermute we really are. So there you go. Any Neuromancer, William Gibson fans will know what I mean.
So, all right. So now that I've kind of explained, what this is and kind of how it works, I want to talk about the scalability, which you had brought up rightly. So, if you're a large organization, my recommendation is that you use these honeypots alongside your existing intrusion detection and log aggregation systems. So, don't abandon what you've already invested in if it's working, but add this because it's going to, just augment what you're already doing. And because the costs of doing this are so very low, it's really not that tremendous imposition to add this and to get the extra benefit from it. Now, if you're a smaller organization and you don't have any existing intrusion detection systems or log aggregation systems, then my recommendation is start by deploying honeypots and honeynets. Get that stuff working. And then if you have sufficient budget, if you have sufficient staff, you can add intrusion detection and log aggregation later when you can afford to do it. That's my recommendation for how to deploy it. And there's some great commercial tools out there. I'm not going to mention any of them because I don't want to give the impression that I'm recommending anybody in particular.
Well, and
But
I think it's going to shift continuously over the next 5 years,
it is,
right?
but you're going to want to look for is a lightweight product that whether it's virtual or what have you, that is vendor supported. And the reason why is because there's a lot of honey pot solutions out there that are open source that are a lot of fun to put together, but they are real time sinks. Takes ton of effort to get them up and running, and then to keep them running is also an ongoing burden. And if anything, these days it's like we have less people, not more. So lean on the commercial solutions, and they're very inexpensive. The basic ones are going to be like, I don't know, $5,000 a year for half a dozen uh, honey honeypot type uh, appliances if you still have on-prem, or you can do it in the cloud with a virtual appliance. So
Yeah.
yeah, think about that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think, the last thing maybe we should mention before we wrap up this episode is just for this, if this evolution is ongoing, continuous. I mean, the only thing that's been constant in cybersecurity the last 20 years is change, right? That's
Hmm.
a truism for a reason.
Yeah, fast
And
evolution.
I think that, you know, it's important for everybody as a defender to always be humble and always recognize that the ground, it may feel like the ground is shifting beneath your feet, and how am I supposed to get stable? Well, you're not, because it is, right? You're not going to get stable because the ground is
Yeah,
shifting beneath your
yeah,
feet. That's part of the job.
yeah. You're on an
um,
ancient wooden sailing ship, and that thing's never going to stay still.
Never going to stay still. And you really need to accept how rapidly the game changes. And this is another big shift. I mean, I think it would be hard to avoid living in the modern world, that the concept of AI changing everything. I mean, it's everywhere you look. And cybersecurity is, of course, just as, if not more, susceptible to AI powered change than anything else. Um, but rather than worry about, oh, am I going to still have a job? You might want to spend some time thinking about, how can attackers leverage this? And then once you spend some time thinking about that, you're going to realize, okay, I'm still going to have a job because this got more complicated, and there's just no way that defenders. I mean, we need people to develop the defenses for these
Right.
ever growing modern attacks. What it reminds me of, Kip, in some ways, is just the rise of drone warfare, right?
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah. It's not like we don't need soldiers anymore.
it isn't exactly. It's not like we don't need soldiers. We need soldiers with slightly different skills.
Right.
Um,
I think the general theme of artificial intelligence with respect to white collar workers, I think is conceptually very similar to what happened to blue collar workers over the past half century, which is to
Absolutely.
say, it used to be that a human being on an automobile assembly line would, pick up a tire and bolt it to, the hub of an axle. Well, now, nobody does that. Maybe you use, some kind of an assisted robot arm to put the wheel up. But more and more, these cars are being assembled by robots. And why do we need people to program the robots and maintain them and make sure that they do what they're supposed to do? So, and I think that's what's going to happen in the white collar world. We're not really going to be doing the tasks, but we're going to be supervising the agents that do
Yeah,
the tasks.
exactly. For sure.
Yeah. So that's a big change. Now, let's talk for a moment too before we leave about regulatory and legal implications.
Oh,
I don't think
this
any of
won't
this
take
is.
long.
Yeah, I know.
No, it won't take long because um, it, there's nothing to say. I mean, there have been attempts at AI regulation, um, but none of them are going to matter to the bad guys.
Right.
So, like,
They're not
so
going to
what?
comply with the EU Act.
No, they're not going. Nobody cares about these laws if you're already a criminal.
Yep.
So, in some ways, I mean, the genie's out of the bottle. Like the cat is out of the bag. Pick whatever metaphor or analogy you want. Um, the world has AI, and barring you know, massive EMPs and going back to the industrial age, if not earlier, there is no situation where AI goes away,
Right.
which actually is an argument against really much regulation at all. If insofar as the risk of regulation is that you slow down development of AI for quote the good guys,
Right.
and I don't even mean that like I just mean that in terms of like
Well,
just
the
thinking about
defenders.
just thinking about cybersecurity attackers and defenders, right? That's
Yeah.
all I'm thinking about here. If you slow down if you slow down defender use of AI because they do comply with new laws, you're just making it easier for the bad guys who aren't going to
Yeah.
bother worrying about the law.
But we're also not seeing any additional requirements, or maybe I should say modified requirements, right? Because you've got requirements to to do certain
Well, I mean,
safeguards, and then you've got
Kip, we
reporting
haven't
requirements.
even we never caught up with basic cybersecurity and the law, right? I mean, that's a theme. I mean, the best we've done, the most we've done is continue to allow the FTC to regulate under this. It's very broad and abstract unfairness standard, which frankly is probably the only way that we can continue to move forward because we certainly aren't going to be able to legislate fast enough on
Yeah.
requirements. So
Okay.
to me that means uh, we've you only need the reasonable cybersecurity standard because it changes with time.
Yeah. Okay. So then it's a big nothing burger, right?
It's a nothing burger at this point. Yes, I mean there's both nothing to say because nothing has changed,
Hmm.
and nothing to say because I'm not sure anything needs to change. Right? I mean I think that it would be nice to have more laws that impose duties of reasonable cybersecurity, but uh, there's not going to be a rash of laws that specifically say you must have honeypots,
Hmm.
um, because you could say that and a year from now there's no point to honeypots because someone wrote an attack agent that is super smart at sniffing out honeypots.
Right.
So we have to switch to something else. I mean, that's the nature of it.
Okay. Let me see if I can just quickly summarize, and then we can wrap up the episode here, okay? So the rise of so-called agentic AI and putting it into the hands of the cyber attackers, well, that's really changed a whole bunch of stuff now. So now we're talking about 25 minutes to do an attack that used to take 10 times as much or 100 times as much time. And this is not a someday thing, this is a now thing. So the question isn't, oh, I wonder if I'm ever going to get attacked by an AI agent. No. The question is, will you be ready when it happens? And
Yeah.
what's going to be your plan for dealing with these attacks when they happen at machine speed?
And
So,
I would add, Kip, that if you were still operating under the wrong impression of I'm too small or I'm not a target, just I mean it's you now we really have to flush that way of thinking
we do,
because
because the economics of attacking small people is just trivial now. It's not
it's
a,
so easy.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a barrier.
Yeah.
So my recommendation: start with multi-layered deception and honeypot networks. Start changing your culture if you need to accept the fact that the old rules don't apply anymore. Like we're too small, nobody cares about us, and yeah, just here comes the big change, everybody.
just like last year. Always a big change.
Yep.
Nothing and everything is change all the time, and adaptation is the only way forward.
All right, that wraps up this episode of the Cyber Risk Management Podcast. And today we talked about AI powered cyber attacks that can complete in as little as 25 minutes. We talked about what this means for defenders and specifically what you can do about it. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. I'm terrified now.